Welcome to the Women's Show. I am Chiatunga Rebecca Juna, the initiator of the Young Women's Space, and today we talk about menstrual hygiene and period poverty. And with me today, I host the wonderful and formidable ladies, Miranda Violet from SRHR Alliance Uganda. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Helena. And Helena is not new on the show. From the Dawana Initiative, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Helena, I will start with you. What does one need to know about menstrual hygiene, especially in Uganda? What are the few things you'd talk about?
The few things that I would really want to talk about menstrual hygiene, or people, the communities in Uganda should know about menstrual hygiene. First, we should find a way how we should deal with the myths and beliefs that surround menstrual hygiene. And then we as a community or people of Uganda should find which ways or technicalities that we can use, and we provide people with accessible, affordable, and healthy menstrual materials. Because currently, I read an article and it was saying that for every rural girl in a term misses like 1 month, because remember a term has like 3 months. So a rural girl is missing like 1 month without going to school because of menstruation. And I think it for this particular theme, period poverty and menstrual hygiene, I think it is something that we should highlight more about it, because it is not only grading the rural girls, but even the urban girls, even the women. Actually, this one time I put on my WhatsApp and I was like, can you imagine that even when you've put on a sanitary pad, you as a woman still feel insecure, that you will have to tell your fellow lady that, is anything bad with my dress? So how about the rural girl who does not have anything like sanitary pads, who does not have a good lavatory where she can go wash herself, put on a pad, or even good knickers, so that she can attend her class or can continue with her daily school routine or schedule. So I think this menstrual hygiene, we the community, the people of Uganda, should look through it. And it is high time the legislature, the government, the leadership, it may not be basically our politicians to advocate how best we can have an end to period poverty, but it is we individuals of the community who should look at how we can address this issue, because it is not only benefiting us or not only affecting us, but it is affecting every woman, because menstruation is for every woman.
Okay, thank you so much. And I come to you, Violet. It's said that over 500 million people in the world that are menstruating, or women that do menstruate, have faced period poverty or lack access to information about menstrual hygiene. How best can one create awareness around access to how to menstrual hygiene products or menstrual hygiene information?
Thank you. I think it's very important that, one, we understand that periods are normal, because there's a way we tiptoe around the issue of menstruation, and that is really wrong, because how are we going to help change the issues and challenges we are facing without normalizing periods? So it's important that we keep that at the back of our minds in whatever we do. So this goes to the government. I know everyone always mentions it. Please, we're begging the government to step in. Maybe at some point they have, but the civil society tends to feel the pinch more. They're doing a lot more work. So we believe if the government steps in to help us address these issues, I think there will be change. And then the other thing is the taxes. I really believe that we shouldn't tax pads. Because if condoms are free,
And that's a choice. You can wake up and decide not to have sex.
Yes.
But you can't wake up and decide not to be on your period.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're pregnant. But even when you're pregnant, there will be a time that you will give birth, and then again you'll get back to having periods. So it's important that they, remove that tax so that people can afford them, the young girls and young women. Yeah, and then the other thing is the information. Like I said, if we're shying away from talking about periods, we will not be able to share important and appropriate information, because I know there are people out there who are trained to be able to package this information in such a way that it's appropriate even for the young girls, because these days, unlike back then, girls start their periods at the age of 8. So yeah, our bodies are changing, things have changed. So it's important that they know, because you hear someone saying, oh my God, the first time I thought something had hurt me. Yeah, and it's so innocent because they don't know. But if we share this information, work hand in hand with all the stakeholders, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, plus civil society, and also create an environment where we can work together hand in hand, I'm pretty sure that we will be able to do away with all these myths and misconceptions about periods. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you've talked about something that is very relevant, and we have seen it in the news, how members of parliament that are women decided that it's okay to tax, pads or sanitary towels.
Yeah.
And that, I do believe, increases the economic injustice against women, especially between the ages of 8 and 40.
Yeah.
I believe that's the time that we still have the menstruation age gap. How do we then address these issues if our fellow women are in parliament and they are the leaders of the women and are saying it's okay to tax, to make money off the bodies of women? How do we reach out to our members of parliament and tell them, hey guys, look here, it's not okay to tax, pads? What do we tell them? Because I do believe they do menstruate.
Yeah.
Yes, so what would you say about that?
I think we need to continue having these dialogues. It may seem like it's for the long shot, but at the end of the day, we don't stop. Because when you set out to do something, it may not happen today or tomorrow or next month. But if you keep pushing, talking to the right people, you will be able to have something done. We have to keep playing our part. So if there is a way we can involve religious leaders, involve parents, schools, people in communities that have influence, I think we'll be able to reach out to our leaders. At the end of the day, I believe we can play our part. Yeah, but also find ways to be able to reach them, to communicate with them. And I think sometimes we just have to help evoke empathy. Some of these things, probably, please put yourself in these guys' shoes. Yeah, because you might have the blessing to be able to afford this for your kids, for your relatives, but there's someone out there, even in your village, even in your neighborhood. Yeah, so I believe we should not stop. We have to keep pushing, sharing our information, helping out when we can, because there are times we may not be able to. But I believe if we keep involving them, having those dialogues and not giving up, we will create the change that we want to see. It may not be easy, but I believe it will come.
Thank you so much, Violet. And
Can I speak something about the information part?
Yes.
Going back home, I think it is very important that for our parents, most especially the female parents, to come out and really give realistic information to the girl child. Because we have seen very many times a girl begins menstruation and the mom begins telling her myths about the whole thing. So she will find it not normal even to share it out with her peers or at school. She'll see it's a disgusting thing. So I feel it is the right time for also parents, if it can be fathers and mothers, to come up and help fight or educate their children about menstruation, telling a boy, oh, it's okay for a girl to menstruate, it's okay to greet. If you see a girl has soiled her clothes, it's okay to give her
something
cover
to
or
cover
something.
up.
yes,
Yeah.
it's not okay to laugh at them. And if for a fellow girl, if you see your fellow girl has soiled, find a way of how you can help her out. If you cannot, see who can help you. Yeah, so I think this whole menstruation information still goes back to the parents.
Yeah, it still goes back to the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are those that don't have parents, and most of the times the girl child is spending time at school with matrons, with teachers.
Teachers.
How best do we ensure, and I'm coming to you, Helena, how best do we ensure that our schools are accessible for girls during menstruation? In terms of a girl can go to school, that is one, but also we also see that most of our girls that are going to government schools, these their washrooms. You find they're sharing washrooms with
Yes,
boys.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even at home, you find that the mother is sharing the washroom with the man, so it looks like it's okay.
okay.
It's normal.
Yeah, but how do we ensure that girls have their own washrooms? They have the water, because you find that they just have, maybe it's an open, toilet, but they have water. They can have towels. What do we need to do, Helena, to make sure that schools are accessible for girls that are menstruating?
Actually, under the Downer Initiative, we are running a program called GRAMP, meaning reusable menstrual pads for rural girls. So we are reaching out to people, individuals, partnerships, corporate companies, and what our main aim is, it is to reach to those rural girls. So we are having programs like creating hygiene club circles, menstrual hygiene club circles, where we can go educate these girls, give them material information about menstruation, but not only that, and also giving them the reusable packs, the pads. And another thing is we are trying out how best we can put stakeholders of communities and the head teachers of these rural schools, how best we can find that we can create a safe environment for these girls who are in their menstruation. And that includes that we shall talk to these people, or we find ways or resources how we can build a toilet, put maybe these what can I say? These reusable or pads just for emergency. Then maybe create a borehole. So we are all for the donor initiative. It is having all those programs, and for now, I think we are going to start with like 3 schools and see how we can impact. So this still goes back to the question you asked me. I think it is important that the civil society organization puts its hand together and sees how we can create it, how we can create a safe environment for the girls in rural areas who are menstruating or who do not have these menstrual hygiene materials. Because at the end of the day, when we still call back to the government and tell the government, help us, it generally does not help us. It promises but does not deliver. But we have seen very many times the civil society has come up and it has really helped. It has addressed issues that the communities are facing. So I think it is high time that even the women's movement has a composition of menstrual hygiene management for the rural girls, for the urban girls, because we may speak about rural girls, but even the urban girls does not have the materials, does not have the information. Actually, I was very surprised one day. I was speaking to some little girl. She was in her cramps, and then I told her, "Oh, you have cramps, have you taken painkillers?" Then she was like, "My auntie told me that if you begin having cramps, you've begun having sex at an early age." But I'm like, "You've not had sex." So it is just a biological functioning that is happening within you. But you can, if you want to release the pain, you can take a painkiller. I had to give a painkiller, I had to educate her about it. So I think it is very important that the civil society also comes in and really helps to end this, because if we wait for the government, just as you said, the government, we shall push, cry. The government will say, it's okay, we shall do this. But it always ends in promises, not implementation. And yet, very many times, policies have come. We have seen projects have come up, and the civil society is so welcoming. Especially the women's movement. You see them, they are very welcoming. Actually, even some civil societies that know what challenges, the issues that women face are very welcoming. They'll say, I will give in this, I'll give in that, because they really want to create sustainability for the women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Helena. You had something to contribute.
Yeah, I'd also like to supplement on hers. SRHR Alliance recently was working with Aga Khan Foundation on a project on MHM, menstrual health management, and we mostly focused on schools still. We visited quite a number of schools, some in Kampala, some in Arua, and were teaching them about how to make reusable sanitary pads, because the truth is, even when we donate, we can't do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a sustainable solution. But when you teach them how to make the sanitary towels, that means they know how to make them, and they can use them whenever they make them, and use them whenever they need them. And then we also did not only teach the girls, we also taught the boys, because at the end of the day, we need to include men. That is when we shall do away with all this stigma, because there are still boys who are not comfortable talking about periods. Like, you know, when you tell him, I have cramps, ooh, you know, it's as if, you know, an abomination of some sort. But if and when we include them, they will have the knowledge, because there are boys out there. The moment you say cramps, the response is, what can I do to help make your life easy?
Yeah.
And then when they're seeing people making fun about, you know, ladies and girls, they're like, okay, what are you doing? Then we also have some animation videos on menstruation, when a girl starts, how the parent steps in to help them. Yeah, so I hope we'll be able to share that, but on our pages it's there. So for us, that's how we've tried to work around this and help share the appropriate information in this regard.
Thank you so much, Violet.
You're welcome.
One of the things that we need to understand is the need to have a lot of these issues incorporated into the budget and planning processes of Uganda, and the budget is coming up. But we go back to the local level, whereby we see how we structure our washrooms, and that goes back to the engineers, goes back to the construction workers, goes back to the planners. And that's how we bring in most of these other people that don't believe that they're part of this conversation. How do we ensure that we reach out to the person that is constructing the washrooms at school, or is constructing a girls' school, to be able to put up an insinuator for burning the pads, because that's menstrual hygiene management in terms of disposal and disposal of the pads, so that they do not now harm the environment, especially those that are already made. What would you say to that person that is in construction, that is about to construct a school, and they're going to have girl children?
I think we have to be to consider inclusivity. Yeah. So when you're doing all this construction and everything else that comes with it, keep it in mind that this is a school that has girls, or it's a school for girls and girls who menstruate. So that is going to happen. Kindly be informed that you have to make sure that the washrooms or whichever facilities you're putting in place are appropriate for them to use. So it goes back to the information. While we are carrying out our advocacy, let us ensure that we share information with them, and right from the grassroots. We shouldn't leave anyone out. And also, if they know this, then that means they're able to work from an informed point of view. And it doesn't matter whether they are men or women. Let them know what they are supposed to do. We could assume that they know, but sometimes they don't. Or even if they do, they're like, so those are women things. So we really have to include them. We can find a way to use, language that is friendly, appropriate. Of course, we don't have to use code word, because if we are talking about making this normal, then why are we using code word? So we have to be able to say it as it is, but then again in an appropriate way, still sharing the information.
Well, thank you so much. If you're out there and you're into construction, and you're a construction company and you're constructing a school, or even a hotel, or whatever facility, you need to understand that women do menstruate, and you have to be able to factor in inclusivity of where are they going to dispose of their pads and burn them from, where are they how are they going to change the washrooms, not to just build a bathtub and then forget that there are days you don't have to use a bathtub. You're going to use a shower. So incorporating those into the construction architects and construction workers, that's our aspect that we need to be addressed. I'll come back to you, Helena. We have had about period poverty, but we also know that we need to bring on men on board. And I'm sorry to say this, but men are very cunning creatures. As we bring them on board, and we know that they'll wake up and say, okay, you need a pad, you need to be pampered when you're having cramps. But you know what they ask for in exchange? Now, for the girl out there, as an adult, you can be able to negotiate and mediate for what they want. But for a girl out there that has to sleep with somebody so that she can afford a pad, how do we ensure that men, I don't even want to say men, how do we ensure that we as the women's movement empower our girls to be able to have pads? Because she's going to sleep there with a guy because she cannot, get some money. And men are not even shameless to say, when are you giving me some? But you see, she's going to sleep with this border guy for 3,000 or 4,000 shillings monthly. In the long run, she's going to get pregnant. So how do we ensure as the women's movement we have sustainable projects or programming for a girl child to keep in school, and also not to sleep with a man because she cannot afford it? The economic injustice around women is so high. So what do we need to do as the women's movement to ensure that girls stay in school and are not being taken advantage of because of period poverty?
One thing, I think I'll still go back to the program we run under Downer. There's a program we are recently launching. It is a skill hub innovation, where we call upon rural girls or girls, all of them, and then we teach them how to make the reusable sanitary pads. And I also, just to go back to your question, I think it is very important that the women's movement begins having this mindset of, or a broader picture of how we can create these skill hubs in various places, where we can call upon mothers, call upon fathers to come and learn how to see get the information, the appropriate information about menstruation, but also learn how to create a reusable pad for their daughter, for their niece. And it is very important that it is we make it as a collective effort, not only live for one organization, but we see it as an identity. We see it as something that we should normalize. We see it as something that it affects every woman at every level. There is no difference between an urban woman, because when you soil your dress when you're an urban woman, they will laugh at you. Those who are ignorant about menstruation, they will laugh at you. And so it is very important that the women's movement looks at a broader picture of creating the skill hubs for especially the women, both in urban and rural areas. And these skill hubs do not only end on creating giving the women accessibility to menstrual hygiene material, but also information, teaching them how to go through the whole process. Because to very many people, I have seen friends that when they go into their periods, they really feel totally sick. So it is important that even we speak about such things while the women's movement is creating a sustainable development or impact on ending period poverty.
Okay, thank you so much, Helena. One of the things and the themes that we have in this year is leaving no one behind under the SDGs. And we do not have to leave the women in hospital, the women in prisons, the women in the market. So therefore, we'll shift the conversation now from the school, from the child going to school, to the women that are in the refugee camps, the women that are in hospital. You know that despite having an accident, you're going to menstruate. That's the funny thing about the women's bodies. You're going to menstruate. How do we ensure that for that woman that is in hospital, we reach out to her. We have women that are incarcerated because you find that you wake up, you have been arrested if you knock down, somebody while driving your car. You go to the police and you enter police cell. There are no pads at the police cells, and I think that's a place for advocacy. For those that are doing advocacy, let's reach out to the police of Uganda and ensure that there are pads in those police stations so that women that are arrested can access menstrual hygiene products. And they're very dirty places.
Yeah.
The police has very dirty places, washrooms for women. And most of the people that have gone to those cells will tell you that we have contracted UTIs and all that. We talk about the woman that is in prison. Those that are in Chigo, how are they accessing these products? I think now the discussion has gotten a little bit broader, closer to us.
Yes.
You get it. The woman that has just checked into a hotel, and the funny thing is that in hotels there are condoms, but there are no pads. Why? So how do we ensure that, apart from even awareness, how do we hold accountable these institutions to ensure that there is a pad in a hotel? You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So we start with you.
I think, like we said earlier, to share the information. Yeah, really, we just have to keep letting these people know that it's important to ensure that we enable women to menstruate. I don't know, for lack of a better word, freely or comfortably. Yeah. Because if the only service you're giving me is shelter, which I appreciate, what is wrong with you just adding a pad, just a pack? It doesn't do any harm, really. You might as well leave the condom if I don't have that plot, really, because it makes you uncomfortable. Like you wake up and, oh my God, first of all, you've soiled their sheets. You're already embarrassed. You're not going to tell them stories. You're there struggling. My God, the bed sheet. Now what do I do? That kind of thing. But if you find a pad there, oh my God, I'm safe. I am safe. And also, you would go back to that place. You're definitely going to recommend it to someone because they are putting women and young girls into consideration. Inclusivity or inclusion, and that is a really, really good thing. And then still, for instance, in cases like prison and all that, the government needs to step in. Now, the cells, honestly, they are not ours to manage. They are a government facility. So please, at least start from there. Step in. For us, let's beg you and do all this that we are doing, but you are in charge there. Step in. But then again, if we are to also lend a helping hand, we start by also extending our programs and projects in the cells. Let us also teach those women how to make the pads so that, they keep teaching each other, and that will be one of their ways to survive in there and menstruate without feeling stigmatized, without getting infections, and just...
Can I add something? I also think it is upon the women's movement to come up with a women's compact, which includes a policy that puts these institutions, these different institutions, on an accountable table. Because at the end of the day, when a women's movement forces for or sits down and comes up with a force, with a policy that maybe says that for every hotel or those places of the refugees, the refugee camps, prisons, the hospitals, there will be like a facility where a woman can go and cleanse herself during that menstruation period. I think it will hold these institutions accountable, and I think also the women's movement has been a bit reluctant about it. But I know if they use a collective force to come up with a policy that is tabled and debated in parliament, there is something that can change in these different places, the refugee camps, the prisons, the police cells, for the well-being and sustainability of a woman. Sincerely,
Thank you so much. When we look at these places, we want to bring the conversation back to home, back to the workplace, back to your nearest heart. to understand that menstrual hygiene is just not about the girl child. It's also about the older woman, the woman that is capable of giving birth. So we urge you as listeners, to take it seriously, and also to remember that a pad is something a woman should have. My former teacher would say you have to move with a pad in your bag for the lady next to you. So the women out there, carry an extra pad even if you're not menstruating that day, for the woman next to you, and so that you can be a sister helping a sister out. And addressing these myths. We have a lot of myths that are around menstruation, even as we grow. So you find that somebody will tell you the reason as to why you menstruate 5 days is because you're too fertile. But then there are times you find that the person has had 2 times in a month the periods. How do we address these myths? What are some of the myths that are out there, and how do we as women, because this is pertinent to ours, address these myths so that the girl child gets the right information and they grow up? Because there are people that would say you put a stone, then you count the number of days, and then after you're like, the days have not, because there are hormonal imbalances that happen during that time. How do we address these myths?
Okay, first of all, we as women should acknowledge that there is something in us that we are missing. Why do I say this? Because actually it is fellow women who spread these myths. So we are creating stigma for a fellow woman. To some extent, I always tell myself, but why would we be told this myth that, when you menstruate and you have lots of, a heavy flow, for you, during birth, you will bleed. And this is a fellow woman who's telling a young girl or telling a fellow woman about it. So it is very important that before we address this myth, we as women look into ourselves and say, but sincerely, what is the problem with us? Because, I've seen this happen very many times, that actually we are the ones even who teach the men to stigmatize us about menstruation. I have seen it. There is a colleague of mine that menstruated, and this guy was coming up to help, but he was stopped by a fellow woman, said, don't give her your...
It's unholy.
Yes. Then I was very shocked. I had to go and attack this woman, and I'm like, but if it were you who had soiled your dress, and I had come in and told this gentleman, do not give her this thing to cover herself, how would you feel? How would you feel? So it is very important that before us saying, men should come up, should you people should help us address this myth, crying, we should first solve the issues amongst us, and see how we can come up with a sister voice, that we are uniform, that you will attack my fellow sister about menstruations or her soiling her dress, and I'm like, no, please respect her. Not going behind her back, and I'm like, now why didn't she know that her days had reached? Those things. Yet sometimes these things happen due to hormonal balance, as you said. A person may not be expecting it. Maybe she has fatigue, it has happened, or she's anxious about something, it happens. So addressing this myth, it first starts with us, the women. We have to recognize that we are the ones to first deal with these myths, how to fight them, how to reduce and spread right information to the public. And when we do that, these men who we want to join us to fight, to end stigma, will collectively come up and like, Sister Wange told me this, I cannot do that to a woman. My mom taught me this, I can. Because actually sometimes it is surprising. I was speaking to a colleague, again a man, and he's like, my mom told me don't eat food for a woman who is in menstruation. She is dirty. You see? So it is very important that we as women really see it as an issue we have to address as before other parties coming.
We look at the culture and the religious
Yeah.
connotations around it.
Yeah.
You'll find that there are religions that say during that time you're dirty, yet your body is self-cleansing.
Yeah.
As the feminist women say, that your body is self-cleansing. And the culture barriers of, this person should not do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I want to come back to you, Violet, and we talk about the fact that there's premenstrual syndrome before you get into your menstruation. Those warning signs that come, those cravings that happen. You're craving ice cream, you want, to drink Coca-Cola. There are those that love soda, or you want to eat chips. How do women, manage premenstrual syndrome? Because you can even get agitated and people will keep wondering. That's why women are emotional. But just like the hormones are at play during that time. Premenstrual syndrome, PMS.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that women are managing PMS so well? Because sometimes you're just angry.
Yeah.
And there's a girl out there that would really want to drink a soda that time.
Mm.
The body just demands something. And she ends up saying, let me go and sleep with Zan so to give me that. Because the female body is just complicated.
Yeah.
How do women manage the premenstrual syndrome, PMS?
I think one of the important things that's always advised is to exercise.
Okay.
Like get something to do to keep you busy, so it will help you find a way to deal with whatever it is that's going on with your body. Yeah, for some people they can talk to their friends. If you feel like you're so moody, emotional, if there's always that safe place, you have a friend, a sister, you talk to them, you tell them, man, I'm feeling off, I don't know. Yeah, there are those that you can watch a movie, something that makes you happy, something just to keep your mind away from concentrating on what is going on. Yeah.
But then when you find that the boobs are swollen, your body is tired.
Yeah.
You get it. The boobs are very. There is something that happens during that time. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. Before there are those that are night sweats that happen.
Yeah.
And you find the girl child just doesn't want to like her body at that moment. How do we get a feel good session? Because the more you feed yourself on ice cream, the more you grow bigger every month.
I think that's why exercising is really the best thing to do. If you can do that, taking a walk, because you don't even have to do the rigorous thing and all. You can just take a walk, dance. If you love to dance, skip a rope. I think that will help you. Take a warm bath. Yeah, you can press cool in the boobs. Yeah, all those things will help you. But also, if it persists, then you can seek medical help. Because for where you can't do it on your own, there's always someone who is very well qualified, a professional person to help you. Because some of these things are extreme for us. Yeah. So if all this exercising and taking a warm bath is not helping, seek medical help.
You've talked about medical help. You had something to say.
I had something to add on, but also this still goes back to the education and the information part of it. Because for very many times I've realized, actually, I also feel a victim of that. During my pre-menstruation
menstrual
syndrome times, I would feel my legs are paining, my breasts are big, I do not want to talk to people, and to some extent, for you as an educated person, you'll be okay, maybe I'm soon beginning my periods or something of that sort. But how about that girl who does not know that these things usually even happen? So I think it is also important that we still educate the public that a woman in a certain time of the month, she will behave in some weird way. Please just
be tolerant.
She does not that it's not that she wants to, but it's
the
just
body
the body
is demanding certain things.
And then there are those who are just okay, like it is fine. Oh, I'm not pregnant. We move.
So and I want us to focus so much on premenstrual syndrome because there are so many people that go through it, and it's like their highlight or their red light that the periods are almost to come. how do we ensure to bring the doctors, the gynecologists on board? Because you find somebody has premenstrual syndrome, then doesn't get periods.
Periods, yeah.
You get it? They have premenstrual syndrome, then people start thinking maybe you're pregnant and you did not know. How do we ensure that when the young child, when the young girl or even an adult woman gets the premenstrual syndrome, sometimes maybe on those that take contraceptives, hormonal imbalances, change of weather, and all these things. How do we ensure that when the girl goes through that phase, they can access, especially for SRHR, they can access these services?
Thank you. I think it's important that as we're doing these projects and programs, let's have professional people on board.
Yeah.
Because there are questions we may not be able to answer. So instead of us beating around the bush and sharing improper information, we can always bring a gynecologist, a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, any professional that has this information and from an informed perspective, instead of us just, beating around the bush and not being sure of what we are talking about. Because the truth is, some of these things are beyond us. They are beyond what we know and what we do. So if you involve someone who is very well educated about this, chances are they will share the exact and right information. And then they will get feedback, because people will now be able to ask questions or share their experiences, and from that they will be guided on how they can manage the PMS.
Thank you so much. So if you're out there and you are a person that does projects around menstrual hygiene, if you're doing projects in the village or in town around menstrual hygiene, ensure that you have a learned or a qualified doctor or gynecologist or person that deals in menstrual health, to give out the right information about premenstrual syndrome, to give out the right information about the number of days one has to be in the period, and to give out the right information around why you're having recurrent periods in just 1 month. Some people wake up and they've finished periods and the periods begin again after 2 days. Having this information is right, so that we just do not teach people how to make pads, but also how to manage their bodies and understand their bodies and what their body is communicating to them, but also being able to ensure there is waste management, so that we ensure that we do not affect the environment, especially for those that are using the pads that are already manufactured. As we tend to wind down, I will call upon personally the men. If you find that your girl, your sister, your mother, your auntie, whoever is around you, is experiencing period poverty, please ensure that you buy for them pads. They are very accessible in supermarkets, at shops. There's always different types of pads, or give them the money to go and buy the pads. But also, if it's premenstrual syndrome, an ice cream massage package for your friends out there. Yeah, massage care packages. It comes in handy during premenstrual syndrome. Chocolates, packages. But please do not prey on the girl child. This is done for your wife, for your sisters, not for taking advantage of them. So for those that want to get involved, please do that. And for the sisters, carry an extra pad to care for your sister out there. What would you want your call of action to be, Helena?
First, I would call the women's movement, because I spoke about a policy, and I think we should, the women's movement should collectively come together and try to find a way through or about how we can address the period poverty thing. But also it also goes back to us, the girls or the young women who are in these spaces. Let's have a hand. Let's have a loving hand or a giving hand, that we can help our sisters that do not have these materials, they do not know this information, and so that we can live happily
Ever after.
Yes.
what
Yeah.
would your call of action be, and to who would you call it to?
I think for me, focusing on religious leaders. They have very big influence in our communities, and they have access to people all the time. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So it is important that they don't shy away from these things because they are happening. And I believe if a parent is shy, I'm pretty sure if a religious leader is equipped with the right information, they will be able to share it because they have young people always, in church and all these places of worship. So we can use some of those moments we are with them to talk to them about the changes in their bodies because they are happening. Yeah, because even kids who are going for fellowship and night prayer and what, they get pregnant.
Yes,
Or
yes.
things happen
Yeah.
because they are growing. So if we also make the church space a place, the church or mosque a place to share this information, it will go a long way. Yeah, they'll work hand in hand with the parents. And I'm happy to share that SRHR always has an interfaith dialogue where we bring religious leaders together from all denominations to just equip them with information they can use to talk to the young people, young boys, young girls, young women, because they have the platforms and we believe they have power. Yeah, so it is important that we work with people in our communities, even cultural leaders, because the times we've been interacting with them, last month we were in Soroti and Lira, this lady, one of the pastor's wives, she came out to us and said, I thank you people so much. I didn't know that I had the power to make this change in my community. And I feel very embarrassed that I was not doing this. But moving forward, I am going to make sure I use my platform to teach our young people because I know we can go a long way. So I believe we can start right from the grassroots to share this information because it's happening. It's menstruation. We can't run away from it because someone can even get soiled in church. So why won't you have that discussion with these young people instead of people chopping word in church? They just say, oh, please come, washrooms, please, something. So,
Thank
that
you
would
so
be my
much.
call to action.
One of the things that you need to know that a woman needs to have, or a young girl needs to have during menstruation, they have to have a pad, they have to have soap, they have to have water. They have to have a clean environment.
And a proper disposable
And
place.
proper disposable place. And they have to also have the right support system because menstrual syndrome is, I can tell you, it's not something to joke about. And therefore it is paramount for you to know that as a person out there, that soap is important, clean water is important. It is something that we need to amplify our voices about, that boreholes, National Water and Sewage Corporation, piped water, wellspring water has to be clean and accessible. One doesn't have to walk a very long distance because it also affects the body. And also having the right cloth, lesu for during periods that one has to have. In a pad is something somebody can have. Those that cannot access pads but have like maybe cotton and wool that they can use. Being able to dispose of their pads. Please do not throw your pads in the toilet or in the pit latrine. It blocks when they are emptying the toilet or the sewage. So make sure that you can burn it. You have a place where you can burn it. Your garbage can take care of that disposal, so that you're able to to ensure that you're not also harboring the other people's work, the plumbers' work.
And also I think it is high time that even when we teach these young women, young girls, all these rural girls and urban girls, how we can create a reusable pad, how it is important for them to love their menstrual cycle. It's also important for us to teach them how to dispose of that pad, because for a very long time I have seen you go to a place and a girl just gets her pad, I think from the knicker, and just throws. Yet you have to wrap it, because also to some extent I feel the men who are maybe collecting such material are irritated, are disgusted by the matter of fact that even these women do not know how to keep their issues private. So yes, so it is important that even when we go to these communities, these places, we teach them how to at least
properly
dispose of
Dispose of,
their
and it goes back to the construction. Where do we dispose of?
yes.
You see, most of the rental places in
They
Kampala,
don't have
where you can burn the pads from. So maybe we need to go back and say, you people that are constructing, you're doing us a
a
disservice.
disservice.
You need to construct areas that have where women can burn their pads from, because now you find blocked, blocked toilets, blocked, sewage places, and it's a conversation that now we need to have with people that are into construction. The whole of Kampala, the rentals,
They
don't have. Just have to dump it in the garbage.
Yeah.
But and now when they throw it on the streets, that is what it doesn't look good. But still, we remember that it's made of layer, especially for those that are already made of layer. To decompose it takes a very long time.
Yeah.
So those are conversations we need to have about, disposal, because it's paramount for the environment. So these are discussions we should have often, quite often, and give also that lens of, disposal, because most of the times we don't talk about disposal. So it's been something that has been enlightening for me, that we can still have this conversation, sister to sister conversation, woman to woman conversations, to unlearn and relearn about our environments, and as women, and our needs, and our the best of the best for us as women. What are your parting shots, Selena?
My parting shots are, let's take menstruation a normal thing. And appreciate it, that it's part of us, and love it.
Violet?
I'd love to appreciate the people who are out there supporting this cause, ensuring that we share information, we get information, people who are, putting in their all, to change, the narrative. I really do appreciate them. And also, like she said, it's a normal occurrence. Let's not act like it's from Mars. It is something that's going to happen every day as long as women are still in existence. So let's please treat it as such. There is no cause for alarm when you see someone soiled or stained. Just find a way to help them, whether you are a man or a woman.
And can I add something?
Yes.
Downa is still running a menstrual hygiene campaign, and I call upon everyone who is able to be a champion. You can be a champion with even 20,000 to help us reach our goal through donating. The details I can be contacted through my numbers, so that we can really end this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to us, giving us your time, gifting us your spaces. We will always be in your space every Tuesday in your home at 2 p.m. I have been Chiatunga Rebecca Juna. Till next time, have a very good afternoon.